Welcome back to another part of Charlie Munger's mental models. Today, we'll be looking at how Charlie Munger thinks, the operating system he uses to kind of navigate through different strategies and judgment. So let's get started. We have the inversion principle first. A lot of people may have heard of this. It's basically backwards thinking. We can go into examples. So invert, always invert, work backwards from failure. And one example here is like we as humans tend to create principles or create strategies to go to this goal. And that's like a linear way of thinking. Whereas if we think from a more abstract perspective, where how do I avoid this? How do I avoid that? How do I avoid not doing this? And you end up almost reaching that same goal because you've avoided these different elements. One example I could give is this is also what Charlie Munger kind of talks about, the concept of death or the concept of not falling sick. So he kind of talks about what can you do to not fall sick? What are the things that you need to do to not die eventually? Or like not dying is obviously it's not possible, but closer to good health, what it means to stay healthy. Like all these questions, they're not straightforward way to go to the part that you want to go to, which is health or good health. But these questions will eventually lead you to good health because you're avoiding the rest of the different things that are also important to avoid and that we need to pay attention to avoid so we don't fall into the trap of those elements. So tell me the things that are not going to make me fall sick is a much more abstract way or much more broader picture perspective of all the things that you need to do to not fall sick. And this is like an eagle eye view on, yes, you need to stay healthy, but that is a very broad question. Like, what does it mean to stay healthy? Things that you need to do to not fall sick. That's easier to answer. It's more simpler. So from a simplicity thinking aspect, and the more simple your questioning is, the more simple the answers will be, and the more simple your strategy will be. So it's probably faster that you find your answer to a particular goal that you want to achieve by working backwards. And this is sort of like first principles thinking, like why this happens, what you shouldn't do, and how this should not occur, etc. So this is the inversion principle, is basically doing the things that are not seen, that need to be seen, that need to be questioned, doing the things that are not straightforward, they're more broad. And that, in fact, this invert thinking makes your strategy and makes your actions much more clear because you know what to do. Like if you can answer things that will make you sick, then you know what won't make you sick or what will make you healthy. And it's a much more clear thinking pattern. So some examples are given here. German mathematician Jacobi always used the inversion technique to solve complicated math equations. And essentially it's addressing a certain problem backwards or opposite perspective to what is the convention. To get rich, list what makes you poor and avoid that. To stay healthy, like I mentioned earlier, learn what makes you sick. Learn what are the things that will damage your immune system. What are the things that will damage your health? Learn that and you will almost likely stay healthy or healthier than the normal people who kind of have this one goal of staying healthy. Airline example. So what destroys an airline? High fixed costs, commodity product, price competition, solution, avoid airlines. So this particular example is from Warren Buffett's and Charlie Munger's investment philosophy. I think they lost a lot of money in airline investing, or they avoided airlines as an investment option because of these particular issues that airlines often had in them. So they avoided it as an investment category or industry. So moving on to business implementation. So list the top ways a business could fail. So it would be debt, bankruptcy, and that's also for personal finance. If you take a lot of loans, you're more likely to go bankrupt or go into just negative compound interest, which we talked about earlier as well. So you want to avoid debt. Again, there's good debt and there's bad debt. You want to avoid bad debt as much as possible. Build systems to prevent each thing in your business. So whatever there are issues in your business, whatever competition, whatever there is in your business, you want to work backwards. You want to think, what can make your business fail, and just avoid that. And you're almost likely to go on this path towards success faster than thinking how you can, for example, grow your revenue. Or for example, like if you think about how customers are not satisfied and you kind of make patterns, you understand those concepts and you kind of systemize that, you can almost make customers feel satisfied much faster. And that will essentially in return grow your business because customers keep coming back to the same thing that they love, which is your products or your services, and review it monthly. I have implemented that in my health. Like, I won't do the things that will not make me healthy or not make me sick. So I've kind of understood those concepts, but when it comes to business, I still need to implement this kind of framework in my business. And once I do implement it, I will share how I implemented it so that you can learn from my experience as well as you move forward. Again, as I mentioned earlier, that we're learning together, and like I'm opening this mind map as I speak. I have kind of previewed it earlier, but I haven't understood the depth of it and understood the concepts of it. So I'm still familiarizing myself with this mind map. So this is kind of like a dual based learning. I'm also learning, you're learning. I'm thinking how I can, like I just given an example of customer service. So I'm thinking on the spot to kind of see how I can implement that in my business. And that way it's like both you, the audience, and you're the person who is listening to me, and I myself, we both grow together. And that's the idea of this. This is advanced business. This is more deeper layer in business. It's not like starter beginning stages of business, because I'm not on that journey anymore. I'm on a different path and a different journey. So these concepts will only be relevant to people who want to think more deeper in terms of life, in terms of business, and who are willing to explore these timeless concepts that have been recognized and systemized by individuals in the past who have become successful in their industries. This is the entirety of creating these type of videos, is we learn together. So Derek Sivers' Inversion. So Derek Sivers was the founder of CD Baby, which was one of very successful music distribution company. So he basically did exactly opposite of what the industry did. So for example, labels took around 2 years to kind of pay the artists, etc. But CD labels paid weekly. Industry kept the data kind of secret, but CD Baby shared it. So because of this industry change that CD Baby created, artists started trusting them more because they were getting paid weekly, and they were also having their data, which is open, like shared, what was happening within the company, etc. So all of this kind of built trust with the artists, and the artists themselves became huge fans of the company, and they started marketing for them free. And that kind of changed the entire music industry respect for the artists, because this company kind of started that whole artist comes first approach instead of music distribution company comes first, which was the industry before. So this was one concept Derek Sivers, who was the founder, implemented through inversion thinking of how to not make artists unhappy or something like that. Like he would have probably thought of to find out what makes artists trust the distribution company more, and eventually what can make artists your fans, or what can make your customers as well as your wholesalers or suppliers love your company, is understanding it from a different approach, where you think about what would you have to do to not make them happy, or what would you have to do to make them hate the company. So this is the type of kind of inversion thinking you have to do in order to come to this approach of clear strategy of eventually having those suppliers, your customers loving you. So that is thinking on an inversion principle. Moving on to circle of competence. So know your edges. This one's a very interesting concept. Always lean into your strength. Always understand what you're good at and just do that at best. Being a generalist is good, but there should be some level of specialization that you should have, as well as being a generalist. So you have to kind of play both worlds. You have to be a somewhat specialist in some category, a master in some things, or a few things you can be a master in, because you have to understand this concept of what is natural to you, what makes your heart sing, or what motivates you, or what makes you obsessed with something. If you understand that if you lean into your strengths, you can much more easily progress in life than if you're doing the opposite. Buffett, for example, he understood you don't have to make money in every game. Tom Watson, smart in spots, stay in those spots. Long-term capital management failure. So Nobel Prize winners thought they could model all. Lost 4.6 billion in 4 months. Lesson, genius in one area does not equal genius in everywhere. Finding your circle. So newspaper tests. Could you write weekly column? Teaching test. Could you teach smart 12-year-old? Competition test. Are you in top 10% naturally? So you can make your own test. Like if you go into ChatGPT, or if you understand this concept, you can ask yourself some questions that would naturally help you understand yourself a bit more. And you can make ChatGPT ask you questions that will essentially help you to understand about what are your natural strengths, what are you natural at, what makes your heart sing, and what you're obsessed with. Because if you do those things, if you become a specialist in 2, 3, 4 particular areas, if you become a master in one particular area or a bunch of particular areas, if you kind of grasp that perfection through practice, through a long-term vision and approach, you can really grow more faster. You can grow more faster than the average person because you've leaned into your strength. The average person will flock here and there. They don't know who they are. They never kind of understand what's happening in their life, why it's happening, what are they good at, what are they not good at, and they never kind of analyze themselves. And hence they just keep like hopping from one industry to another, from one place to another, because they never really know what they want and who they are and how you can match that. And that is the entire issue of the average person. But if you understand what you're natural at, what your inclinations are. And sometimes the journey is a little bit tough. Like, it's not that hard work won't be involved in every journey. It will be involved. There's effort required everywhere. But if you understand like how people get ahead in life, whereas some people stay the same or they never change or they never grow, everybody has 24 hours in a day. That's it. That's the entire time that they have. There is no one who has more time. And hence there is no one who has more leverage in terms of time. Time is a constant constraint in everybody's life. Yet some people understand and grasp opportunities faster than others and get ahead in life, whereas others kind of stay in the same place, not really understanding or improving on themselves, not leaning into your strengths. And in fact, some people do the opposite. Some people do the things that are very hard to do. Instead, they should be doing things that are easy and good for them to do. And they would run in the opposite direction. And if you run in the opposite direction, there's eventual suffering in that entire process of running into brick wall after brick wall, whereas if you're just flowing like a river, if you're just moving through life in a flow, there's grace, there is opportunity, there is ease, there is less pressure on you to understand or see progress in your life. And this one concept, like when I implemented and when I understood this concept, that for me, the biggest thing was staying in my lane, staying in my industry, which is naturopathy, e-commerce, Ayurveda, understanding every detail in which health, business, technology, like how can that combine? So this combination made me kind of who I am today, and the progress in my life that I have achieved is through this combination and the opportunities that have come forward because of these specializations that I still continue to do. Like, I'm not going to move away from my industry because I'm already good at it and I just have to get better every single day by learning within that industry, right? So e-commerce, business, Ayurveda, natural health, technology or AI, like these are the new concepts, and go super deep into each concept so you can grasp its essence and you can kind of come out of it and serve that as your product or your service. So that is the entire kind of leaning into your strengths. What is natural to you? So that's the entire kind of understanding of leaning into your strengths and really thinking what you should not do that is unnatural to who you are, that is like forceful, there's pressure, there is stress, which is not natural. Like when you're working, you should enjoy your work. When you're doing something, you should be completely present and you should be in flow. That is when good work happens. That is when you can really see yourself growing and you can map that, and eventually opportunities and new things come forward to you that you've probably never thought it would, and you grow in a certain speed at which it's natural for you that way. So lean into your strengths. That is the entire concept of circle of competence. So know what you're good at and keep doing that, keep practicing that, and eventually you'll grow. So as Bruce Lee also once said, that he doesn't fear a person who has practiced 1,000 kicks once. He fears the person that has practiced one kick 1,000 or 10,000 times, whatever it is. So the more there is specialization, the more deeper your knowledge, your experience, your practice becomes, and the more profound the results you output. The more you can share, the more you can give, the more you can create, because that level of depth no one else has. You basically outcompete competition, or you kill competition by being unnatural at things that help or things that have natural inclination towards you. You have natural inclinations to those things. That is when you as a person will grow faster than everybody else around you. And that's how you will outcompete everybody, because you have gone into so deep, and because humans are so unique. Like, that's the thing. What education does, and I'm talking about education if you perceive it in a very straightforward way and you don't you're not into your education, you're not into into what you want to learn, what you want to do. If you just go to a college, get a degree, get a job, whatever it is, it's a linear pathway, and it's one kind of mass production of human brains and one thinking aspect. So that is a problem because humans are unique in themselves. Every single person is so unique. But when you systemize a human brain to thinking a particular way and you put them through this system that churns their brain into one pattern of thinking, that is an issue. That will never make them discover or explore their natural instincts, their natural patterns, because you have conditioned them to think the same way as everybody else is thinking. Those 10,000 students that go to the same university think the same way, who are doing the same course, and they never kind of explore their dynamic human being. So for me, like if I give my example, I realized that I didn't want to go into the chefing industry when I saw chefs working. And when I realized that health is the most important thing, I was like, I can't do chef because it's not healthy for me. What I can do is natural medicine, which is not in the normal universities here. You have to go to a private university. And that was a natural inclination. And in that university, I learned how to think because they were very open to different concepts of healing, different concepts of understanding the body. And that made me think it was not a system process that you have to follow to get this output out of you and eventually get a job, whatever. There was no, like, there's hardly any jobs in the naturopathic industry as well. So like my career was not defined by anything. And hence that gave me the biggest opportunity to explore what was there in me and how can I share that or explore that in a way where I can create value or income for myself. There was no predefined path, which led me to very opportunity-rich, value-based career, which if I had gone to a normal university, if I had not known what I want and what my natural instincts are, I would have turned out the same way, going to the same job, going to the same college, etc. Like it would have all been the same. There's no newness. There is no dynamic way of being in life. But because I realized at an early age that what do I have to do to create wealth, create good health, live a good quality of life, I realized that, and that led me on this path of exploring opportunities, exploring, taking risk, understanding who I am and leaning into that naturally. And what eventually makes like a good life, like I love what I do and I'm obsessed with it. Like I can't stop learning every single day. I'm reading, I'm learning, I'm listening to audiobooks, whatever it is. I'm always trying to grasp knowledge. And that isn't natural to me. Like it comes naturally because I want to do it. It's not that it's forced. It's because I want to do it. And that's eventually what led me to creating value that can outcompete. Not because I want to outcompete, because I naturally outcompete, because I'm authentic to who I am. Authenticity, if you understand and if you lean into that, is what will give you the edge in life. And that's what this core circle of competence is. It's finding your edge, leaning into what you do best. So let's go into the final thinking model. And after this, I'll stop and then we can cover Jim Collins' frameworks from Good to Great. So Good to Great is a very highly regarded book in the business world. It comes after you've kind of read the basic books like Rich Dad Poor Dad or whatever it is. Like if you read all the basic business books type assets book, this comes after that. This is a more deeper book. And Jim Collins is one of like the best writers for business. And I'll cover that later. So the final framework for thinking, operating system, is checklist methodology. And professionals don't rely on memory. E17 crash 1935 led to the first checklist, reduced accidents by 10x. Surgical checklist reduced deaths by 47%. We have Charlie Munger's checklist here. Can I understand it? Does it have a moat? This is in terms of investment in companies. Is management honest and able? Is the price reasonable? What are the downsides? So this is essentially what Charlie Munger uses when he invests in companies, a checklist. So this is what he talks about, is using checklists for everything. You can build checklists. For me, I use checklists for my day. So I've got around 3 to 5 tasks that are the main things that I have to do in a day, out of which 2 tasks are the most important, 3 tasks for health. So I have got like a health, mindset, business kind of checklist, and I run that through every single day and I tick it off, whatever it is. So that is the way I use checklists. You can use checklists for your employees, people who you work with. Checklist is, again, like mentioned here, is crucial for reducing failure risk. Business checklist. So hiring, culture fit, skills, references, growth. We have product launch, so research, MVP, support metrics, acquisition, so strategic fit, culture, integration. These are like just simple understandings or metrics through which you can have a checklist for each category of your business. So MVP, if you don't know, it's minimal viable product. So yeah, that is checklist methodology. Again, this is the entire and the final part of how Charlie Munger thinks and his mental models framework. So I hope you enjoyed this small session on thinking frameworks and Charlie Munger's operational system that can help you in your life to, one, lean into your strengths, think opposite from the people around you, think from the inversion aspect that what should you not do to get there or to not get there, etc. And then you should have a checklist methodology. So all these concepts, I hope somewhere or another you can incorporate in your life. This was a short session, but next week I'll cover Jim Collins' framework from good to great, and we'll also go into investment philosophy and strategy that all these great people use in their life. So have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next part of this mind map.